some people engage in. You know, how can a good God allow that? How can you want to ask, why does a good God let people continue doing those things and not wipe them out right on the spot? And but all the books will be balanced, all the ledgers will be balanced one day, all the scales will be balanced one day. Everything that's ever been done against the will of God, against the desire and the will of the Holy Spirit of God, will all come out one day. And see, like I said earlier, people seem to have this idea that when you get to heaven, God will weigh your good deeds against your bad deeds. And if your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds, you go to heaven. If your bad deeds outweigh your good deeds, you go to hell. That's not at all how your eternity is determined. You make that determination right now. He that hath the Son hath life. He that hath not the Son of God hath not life. And that determination is made right now in this life before you die. You make things right with God right now. There is no such scale judgment before Jesus Christ one day where I hope I've been done good enough, I'll take my chances. No, you make that determination right now. The Bible says now is the accepted time. Now is the day of salvation. Don't put off till tomorrow what you ought to do today. And so people have a mixed up idea about what it is about God. But this woman here says she's clamorous and simple and knoweth nothing, verse 13. Would have been a great description of Job's wife. Whoever the woman is that Solomon's describing, she's not a blessing to her husband. That much is clear. She's not a prudent wife. She's not a discreet wife. She's not a careful and a cautious and discerning wife. She's not a moral and virtuous woman like he describes in chapter 30 or 31 of this book. This woman has, they used to call it Knob Hill, K-N-O-B, Knob Hill. And now we just refer to it as Snob Hill. The rich people, they live way, way up near the foothills. They got nice homes. They can look down, see the houses down below, and sit in judgment of them. But funny how there's always somebody who's a little farther up the hill than they are. And so they turn around, they'll sit in judgment of them, and vice versa. They're shooting eyes back and forth at each other. But notice what verse 14 of this text says. For she sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city. So she's living way up there in San Antonio Heights, or the hills of Claremont, up against the foothills, or way in the upper reaches of Upland. Way up there where the rich people live, where the Marquez family moved to, in Upland. And they look down on the rest of us peons down here in the lowlands of Ontario. And that's the way it goes. Rich people, they just think they're that great. They just think they're the best. And this woman, it says here, she sitteth in her seat, in a recliner, comfortable. And this one here that he's describing might be one of these rich, snobbish women sitting out by the poolside and the deck chair, the lawn chair out by the pool, getting her suntan. And right about that time, the gardener comes by, the pool boy, the plumber, the mailman, or whoever the case may be, and she calls him, hey, come on in, stay a while. You know that whole scenario. The Hollywood's got a lot of mileage out of that, Desperate Housewives and all that crap. Everyone's just, and that's the scenario they put out there. And I said this in our earlier Sunday school there, if they measured the use of that scenario in Hollywood in terms of miles, you could travel around the earth about 3 or 4 times. And the number of times Hollywood's used that scenario about the lonely housewife, her husband's making a fortune, and she's living in luxury, and she's still not happy. Remember in the book of Genesis when Joseph was sold to Potiphar's house as Potiphar's servant, and he was able to trust Joseph, put him in charge of everything, and the only thing that was forbidden Joseph was Potiphar's own wife. Otherwise, he was trusted with everything Potiphar had in the kingdom of Egypt. And Potiphar's wife saw him and started lusting after him. And every day she'd say, "Come and lie with me. No one's home. Go for it. No one's going to find out. Let's just have some fun." That's the appeal. And Joseph got himself out of there. She grabbed on. He yanked himself out of his own coat and left the coat in her hand. And she screamed out the window to the servants, "Stop that Jew. He tried to molest me." And so forth and so on. They arrested him and put him in prison. And I've often read that, and I got to thinking, you know what? In the ancient world, they would have cut the guy's head off before anything else. And I often thought it was strange that Potiphar put Joseph in prison rather than just beheading him right then and there. There must have been something in Joseph that Potiphar had seen day after day after day that made him think, you know what, I have a hard time believing that Joseph would do that. He would try to come on to my wife. But my wife, no matter what I buy her, she's never happy. I buy her jewelry, she wants more. I buy her a nice coat, she wants more. I buy her a nice home, she wants a bigger home. Doesn't matter. I buy new furniture, she's not happy, we've got to get new furniture. I buy her a new television, no, that's not good, I've got a new television. No matter what I buy her, she's never satisfied. Take her on a vacation, went to Syria, she's not happy. Bought her new single humped camel, she wanted a double humped one. No matter what it is. And he says, my wife's never happy. And if I know my wife, she's probably the one that instigated it, but I got to save face. I got to save face because I'm on the spot. I've got to decide what to do with this young man that's been accused. I can't say, well, he's innocent. I won't look like much of a leader. So he puts him in prison. I can't help but wonder if that's not what happened in the case of Joseph and Potiphar's wife. I have no reason to believe something else happened. But the line she uses to seduce the young man is an old line, it's a familiar line. Notice there in verse 17. Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. And there's much truth in this. Taking something that you're not supposed to have is always more exciting than taking what you're allowed to have. That's why politicians, they have this saying that says, it's easier to apologize than to ask permission. Just go ahead and do what's wrong, and then once you're caught with it, really apologize, and I'm really sorry, and I've learned my lesson. That's easier to just do what you want and apologize later than to ask permission beforehand, because you know you're not going to get it. And but Eve couldn't resist this. Remember back in the garden, the serpent came to Eve, and she saw the fruit of the tree was pleasant to the eyes and a fruit to be desired to make one wise, and she took it. That which is forbidden is always more enticing, more interesting than that which is legal for you to have. Human nature is that way. Human flesh is that way. No amount of satisfaction, no matter how much you satisfy the appetites of the flesh, the desires of your life, you're never fully happy. Look forward at Proverbs 27. Proverbs 27, and notice verse 20 there. Proverbs 27, verse 20 says, hell and destruction are never full, so the eyes of man are never satisfied. And then come forward to the next book, just a few pages forward, to Ecclesiastes chapter 6, verse 7. Ecclesiastes 6, verse 7 says, all the labor of man is for his mouth, and yet the appetite is not filled. You go out to eat a big meal, and you come out stuffed, you think, I couldn't eat another bite. Within 24 hours, you're going to be hungry again. You're going to be eating another bite, and you're going to be filling yourself up again. Somehow, one meal that just, you go walk out feeling bloated. I couldn't eat another bite. I'm so full. It's not going to be very long, and you're going to be hungry, wanting it again. When I was younger, we go to Vince's for spaghetti, and I'd eat the full order. I'd eat the full order with the soup, salad, garlic bread, and I still had room. We'd walk out, I'd smell that garlic bread cooking coming out of the kitchen. I'd want to turn around and go back in and get more. I mean, then I got to be about 30, 35, and I was reduced down to half order dinner. And now I'm over 40, almost 50. I'm wishing they'd give me a child's plate. You know, I can barely finish half of the half order, and then I got to take the rest home with me. But the lust of the flesh is never satisfied. Much like your appetite is never satisfied once and for all. Once that wears off, you're going to be wanting more to eat. And the same thing is true with other desires, other temptations of the flesh. And in this day and age, they have this idea of sex education, drug and alcohol education of kids in schools. If we just teach kids all about sex, teach them all about alcohol, teach them all about drugs, and we remove all of the taboos and the stigmas and the prohibition, we remove all of the bad connotations of all of those things and just make it legal for people to do any number of things, then it won't be tempting anymore, because it'll be legal. It's not as tempting as doing something that's illegal. Prostitution, or they've got a movement right now to legalize marijuana in this state. They say, well, it's just for medicinal marijuana, medicinal use. I guarantee you, if they passed a bill that said marijuana is legal only for medicinal purposes, overnight, everybody would be going to get a prescription from their doctor saying, I have a medical need for it, doc. I do too, me too, me too. You have more dope smokers than you know what to do with. But it's all medicine. It's my medicine. I don't really want to take it, but the doctor told me I need it. Sure, pal. See, whatever you tolerate, you get more of. If this state didn't crack down on drunk drivers, you know what we'd have? A lot more drunk drivers. If we didn't take a dim view of domestic abuse and wife-beating husbands, you know what we'd have? We'd have a whole lot more wife-beating husbands and a whole lot more busted-up homes and ruined families. A lot more people in the ER with bruises and everything else. Whatever you tolerate, you get more of. And the idea isn't, well, let's just let them have it and tell them it's legal to have it, and then it won't be tempting anymore, because the excitement is in trying to get something that you're not supposed to have. It doesn't work that way, unfortunately. The flesh is insatiable. It can never be satisfied completely. The more whatever you tolerate, the more you get of it. And she says in verse 17, stolen waters are sweet, is taking something you're not supposed to have. And now, in Dr. Ruckman's commentary, he talked about if you were talking to young boys roaming the streets of Kansas and Indiana and Iowa, and you said stolen apples are sweet, they would know exactly what you're talking about, because every one of them's stolen them off some farmer's tree when they weren't supposed to. And if you said stolen melons are sweet, and you're talking to kids down in Alabama or Mississippi or Tennessee or some southern state where a lot of melons are produced, they would know exactly what you're talking about, because they've all stolen it from some farmer down the road when they weren't supposed to have it. And I got to thinking, out here, what would we say? And I thought, stolen berries are sweet. Stolen strawberries, stolen blackberries, raspberries. We had some friends up in Northern California. We'd go to their home every year at vacation time when we were kids. Our parents would take us there. And not only did they have a lot of wild blackberries growing across the road, Dave and I and their kids went in the woods and we picked all these blackberries, and then their mom made them into dessert and topping for ice cream later on that night. But their neighbors had a strawberry patch in their backyard. And we went in that backyard and we began stealing strawberries and eating them off the plants. And somehow that was a lot more fun than the ones that were, free for the taking. Somehow getting away with it, there's some sort of, satisfaction of getting away with taking something you're not supposed to have. Now, The application that is made here, of course, is to fornication, a woman seducing a young man to come on to him. Stolen waters are sweet, bread eaten in secret, so forth. That's the enticement. Come on, no one's home. No one's going to be home for hours. And no one's going to find